Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the client vendor portal webinar today. It might be afternoon for you, so I have to remember I'm coming to you from Arizona, and my name is Leslie French. I'm an account manager here, and I've been working with Workamajig for, I've been an account manager with Workamajig for over 8 years now. So I'm delighted to have you on the call today, and hope I can get you some good insight on what the client vendor portal webinar is all about, or I shouldn't say the webinar, but what the client vendor portal is about and why people are using it. And you may find it very helpful for your workflows. So I want to just check, is everyone hearing me okay? I want to see that we've got several people logging in now. So before I just plow in there, I see a response, and thank you for that. So it's always good to know that I'm going to be heard, not talking to the cyberspace out there. All right, well, I want to start off today with giving just a little quick introduction of what we're going to cover today. I just gave you my introductions, and I wish I could meet you all personally. I can't hear you, as most of you may already know, but you can put your questions or comments up in the chat. But I am not going to stop and look at the chat very often, only because it just interrupts my workflow. My flow is going to get disjointed if I kind of jump back and forth to where your head is maybe going. I promise, I think I've got it covered to where I'm going to cover all the main details, give you time, I promise, at the end where we can cover some questions. So let's look at the overview of what we're going to talk about here shortly. So first is, what is that client? And I noticed in our help guide, they call it client/vendor portal, although probably in the support guide, it just really says client portal. It can be used by clients as well as vendors. We'll go over that. So who uses it? We're going to go into the details of who and why and how. We're going to need to talk about the setup, important setup, so that it'll work well for you. And then we will go into a demonstration and overview of a lot of the features. And I don't know if you've used all of the features that you're going to see today. So I'm going to have to keep it focused with what you do in the client vendor portal, but we're going to make sure you see all of the options you've got there today. And again, I'm going to hold some time there at the end to go over your questions and get you answers. And if you have trouble getting all the answers from me, or you still have more, please be sure you know you can send us questions at support@workamajig.com. Okay, so let's start with the first one. What is that client portal and what is it used for? It is going to be, I heard someone say this to me the other day, one of my clients, and they're like saying, oh, we're really anxious to get everything in one place. You know, we got emails, we've got, you know, all these different ways that we communicate, chats and everything else. And this portal can help you get one place for them to go to when it relates to the work you're doing for your clients. It does give you an option to request projects. I say you, I mean the client, the one requesting work. It gives them an option to go in and request that work from you using our project request forms. It can give them quick access to those important updates. You don't necessarily have to always send an extra email out if you're giving them portal access, because they can see those updates that you're putting into Workamajig, as long as that's what you want them to see. We're going to show you how to personalize it all. So this will help improve your communications. It'll help them or clients feel like they're able to communicate better with you and stay on top of their deadlines, as well as you being able to stay on top of theirs. If you're using deliverables, you're going to be able to not just work via their email link, but you can also notice, where we'll show you today, how they can actually see those deliverables right there in the portal. If you want to give them access to a calendar, they can view that calendar in the portal and keep on top of important meeting dates. Yes, I know you can send email links these days and everything can go into other calendars, but this is just another option. Okay, so who uses that client portal? Well, I've been using the word client, but it was initially designed for the idea because if you don't already know, Workamajig works with all types of clients. Our clients are you guys, the ad agencies, but we have internal marketing groups. We call them Marcoms. Those clients are their internal employees. They're other employees that are not doing marketing, but may need work from their marketing team. So their clients are the internal people that don't need to have paid access into Workamajig in order to request work. So it helps with their getting things approved and started. But also I've been talking more and more with full-size agencies that have been already using the client portal or starting to notice the importance or how it would help them, like that sales manager, the account managers, those groups of you are in your company that are not doing the creative work, but they're getting the clients onboarded so that you guys can do the work. So they love this option because they can log in without having to know much about Workamajig. They just need to know how to log in, and this goes for your clients too. They log in, they can request that work, they can be on their way, but they can also keep an eye on things, on how far along it is, so they can be better account managers to the new and potential clients. We're finding full agencies like to use it with their repeat customers. It's not how you woo a customer, a new one in, but once you've got them and they've got ongoing needs like those fixes to websites or an updated email campaign, it's a wonderful place for them to just go in, an easy way to communicate, much better than just a random email that some people jabber on, and others are so shorthanded you can't tell what they want. So this can give that little extra help with communications. And I mentioned the vendors and contractors before. They may just need to get in and see spec sheets, maybe get a look at a conversation, and they don't want to have to look through all their old emails. They can go to the portal. But vendors and contractors, they cannot have free access into the client portal if they need to record time. Then we're using a different function. So only free access for these basic, many options in the portal, but it doesn't give you time tracking options for any of these free contact users. Okay, so as I just mentioned here, contacts that are given access into this client portal typically and should have that free access, but proper setup is essential. So I'm going to point that important setup today so that you don't accidentally all of a sudden get all these new users into your system and somebody comes asking you, why do I have a big number of paid users all of a sudden in the Workamajig? So we'll look at that carefully. Excuse me. If my voice cracks, I apologize. I think there's something in the air, so I hope not to cough in your microphone here. So next, we're going to look at that setup. Quick look at the security access and how you can personalize everybody's access. We're going to go through a demonstration. So, and we're going to leave time for at the end of the call to answer your questions. If you can't get everything answered or you come up with ideas later, there's the email you can send. If you already know this, apologize, but support@workamajig.com will get you directly to your account manager. If they don't know the answer, because it's from my webinar, they'll send it to me, so no problems. And of course, as you know, we already record these webinars, so you can share it with others, maybe use it as a review, hopefully. And our additional resources are here found at the support guide at support.workamajig.com. So let's get started. I use that as a quick way to get to the support guide, and know that I always use the good old search command up here to find where I might want to go. So there's certainly more information to be held in this client portal. The setup can be reviewed. So different things for you to review back at that time, at the time you would like. Excuse me. Okay, so let's look. I've already logged into my use of Workamajig. This is our testing ground, what I go into when I have to figure out what I might need to show people or test something out. So all my information here is purely make-believe, but you know, it is going to give us the idea, hopefully, of the workflow that you might need to use the client portal for. Certainly a project manager page is going to give me quick access, and I can even see when there's things going on that may need to be taken care of. So let's just move on how I would end up needing or wanting to use that portal. I'm also going to go and show you that I've got a client here that I've just recently pretended to onboard and get started. And we've got the project going, and I've had some spec sheets. Then this may have been just stuff I did traditionally. I've talked with the client. They sent me an email. They, won an opportunity, whatever, and we opened a project. Not necessarily did I do it, or I did not do it in this case through a project request, but there will be times when you get a project request, and you will see that if it was started from that, you'll have this in your project set up for that project request to be entered. So we normally have that as a already part of that link because you would have done it through project request. I'm talking too much. I haven't shown you enough yet. So let me just notice that, we've got conversations, and my client is talking to me this way. If you've used conversations, we're doing that all the time here, and I'm going to just show you how this relates back to Mr. Joe King's access when I get him a client portal login. Okay, so let's talk about, I mentioned first, I'm going to look at the system setup for you a little bit briefly here. Now, my access is different than yours, potentially. I certainly am an admin in the system, so I have all these different bubbles. If you don't have access to this, just notice what you might need to ask somebody to help you set up within the admin manager. And the first thing we're going to look at is that system setup area for the security rights, because everything comes from your security settings, including your client users. I'm going to click down here, and my basic client user may have a few things. They can view that calendar I mentioned. They can maybe view project requests. They can add and other things that you may want to give them. Or some people, like I've got several people in that group, and I may have other users or clients that are limited, but have more options in the system. So it all comes from our client rights side. They need to have the basic security rights like you do to get in and do what you need to do. So that's step number one. And I've already automatically given them some file uploads they can view and see files, etc. So if you don't understand this area, certainly that can be a deeper dive with your account manager. So let's move on beyond that, but that's our step number one. The other piece in here that I'm going to just point out that would need some setup in order to use the client portal well will be found in the tracking area. And I mentioned spec sheets. Well, spec sheets are things you're using now, hopefully, in your projects. They are what they are, and they're usually a bunch of different questions and forms that people can fill in. You can do this internally with your page users. Everyone's been using these. They could, PDF a copy, etc. But you can attach these spec sheets into those request forms for a project I mentioned, and that would be set up in what we call the defined project request area. I'm going to use the one I've already created in here. If you've never used them, you'll have to create your own, but they're with a quick introduction from your trainer. You'll know how to set this up. If there's included spec sheets, is there an approver, who can view it? And basically those are the main parts of it. So we will just notice that you can have maybe only one form, one simple, easy, let's just get them in. I'll follow up with other stuff, or I can have several different types of project request forms. Okay, so let's go back to my project manager today page just to get a landing page, and let's talk a little more now about the actual setting up. So I have a number of ways that I can get my contact. Certainly I can add a new contact and do it at the time. If I'm doing that, I may do it through the sales contacts. I might do it other places. I'm just going to go into my shortcut for recents and maybe find my person there. And of course, you can always go to views. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to an easier spot, right? My global search form and find them in that. Or I can go to views and find my, not my clients, but my contacts. Sorry, my contacts are always found in sales. Okay, so just know either which way you like to go to, and you find your user in your searches. Okay, but I'm going to do a quick easy. Go to my recents, and I've been playing with Mr. Joe King yesterday and got them all uploaded with a fun little icon. They may do that themselves, but you should be able to feel comfortable doing it for them if you'd like. Notice the conversation that I think I showed you briefly in the project I was in initially. I sent it to Joe, and you see that it's connected to his record. So that's always those good connections. So how do I get Joe login access into Workamajig? Let's start with that now. So we are going to go into his contact record like I am and go into his More button. And we're going to set up contact settings. In the contact settings, first thing to worry about is the security controls. Just like you, he's going to need a user ID. So I'm going to just go into making it easy with making his user ID what I want. You might use the email, which we recommend because there could be too many other Joe Kings out there, and you know how it is with ID. So use an email in there would be certainly the best way to go. And then you can always tell your client, oh yeah, your user ID is your email. But I'm going to keep it easy. I'm going to use that user ID and set him up a password and make sure that it picks up the security group that you want him to be part of. Now, it's no purpose of using those others that are your internal users, security rights, but we want clients, either one client security right, or I have two in my case. I'm going to keep them basic. And make sure to hit save. But also notice if I've given a user ID and a password, if by chance you have unchecked by accident the free user or free login, it will tell you here that you may be ending up giving them more access as an actual paid user, and you will potentially get extra charges on your account. So do always, when you're first setting up your contact, make sure that that stays checked. Never, ever, ever, nor do you need to give them an administrator checkbox. So really, user ID, password, security group, double check free login, and active is because he's an active user. That's all we need it for. Hit save, and let's go ahead and close out of this window for the moment. Oh, Google Chrome, it tries to help us out all the time. All right, there we go. Let's go back to that more setting. And now that we've done the contact settings, we can go into looking at the preview client portal. Now, what this has given us, if you've been with us a long time before we moved into Platinum, we always had to log out and go in and log in as the new client in order to see this. This preview gives you a chance to kind of see what it would look like if you can just kind of notice the smaller window for the moment. Ignore my picture, but just my dog, my sweet old guy, his view right now is very small in your window here to see what currently Joe King could see. Okay, and then we're gonna minus the settings. Joe King would see everything that you see here. The settings is going to give you the choice to modify, not the company default, please, but the client rights. Which client security group are you working with? You see, I have a pencil because I've modified mine. We would override it. And by the way, you can see who's in that security group, and I got a bunch of them. They don't all have access, but they all have maybe that security group in there. The date range, I might want them to see for certain things, and you're going to just have to look at this carefully on your own screen that we're going to go through how you can add or remove certain rights. Okay, so I'm showing spec sheets, files, showing maybe next steps, start a new conversation. I can give him the rights to do that. Maybe I just want him to see conversations, not start them. That's your choice. And this is your mini security setup for this one security group of the client customer. Okay, so you see I have a few things enabled, whereas I have more things. I'm going to say no on my changes. I have more things given to the full rights, as I call it, client user group. To your total call, all the way down to, are we showing budgets? Are we going to see campaigns? Are we going to even see invoicing details? So you'll want to set yourself up as a contact in one of your client a test client record. Give it a different email than your work email so you can see firsthand how things might communicate and show back and forth. That's the best way. It's my best way to really know how this whole thing works. Okay, so anyway, any changes, you would hit save and you can then go back and maybe refresh the page to make sure you're seeing everything. Okay, I'm going to go in and actually physically log in as Joe King, but you will get the feel of what he could do without even having to do that. Oh, I want to talk about views. You guys also see views, but I want you to notice if Joe King is looking for projects, he has a limited access to those report views. And if he's hit search, I forgot. I'm in as me. So this report view looks very strange. We're going to see how it looks different when I log in as Joe. So it's not perfect. It is a portal view only for you to set settings, but then I do recommend you're setting up their first password. You can go log in as them and make sure that they are comfortably using it. So I'm going to leave it at that and come back to seeing more. So notice you certainly have other things under this more button when you're in the contact record. This more is what you need here. And the contact settings was what we did first to set up the security controls. That is the main piece there. Okay. I see you're holding off on questions. I appreciate that. I almost said let's any questions, but I'd rather move on. Do maybe write something down if you want to get back to it. Let's go in. I'm going to log. I am going to log into a different browser so I can leave this one up in the background in case I need to go there. And I'm going to go back in their user ID we've talked about, but I didn't say about the URL. How do they log in? They're going to go to, oh my. They're going to go to the same URL, but maybe not through my Firefox today. As you do. I'm on app 16 when I was logged in as myself as a project manager. Your client will also go to that same website. App 16, just like you do. You might require the word platinum at the end of your login. Mine is set to where I don't have to do that. But anyway, there's your app 16. Let it refresh to that. And it looks like it's a little sluggish today. Going to the different portals and Zoom, we always have a little more challenge. But their speed is also going to depend on their internet access. Okay, so you see they've got the same login like you do. They can keep themselves signed in. They can even bookmark it. But basically, they need to know their login, their user ID, and their password. I kind of laughed at my user ID of joking. I love that name. I almost want that name now. Okay, so here is Joe King's client portal, just like you saw, but they've got the full size screen. They don't have that little miniature version, although they could see a smaller version if they logged in on their phone. I'm going to move along. I'm looking at our time here. So notice that I want you to go in and check yours out so that you're comfortable with what your clients would see. This is that smaller access. He can add and request a project. So let's go in and do such like that. Oh, I didn't clean up. Now you're going to probably only have 1 or 2 of these forms, or maybe not. So make sure when you do build some project request forms, you label them nicely. And the point is you only allow your client to see whatever forms they should see. So that's where some people have to build a bunch of them because they want specific ones for every client. And that's a lot of work. Or you can just go with one simple project request form that would work generically for everyone. And then they may only see one or 2 different types of request forms. A basic request form is who is it requested by, what's their email that's going to get sent to, when do they need things to be completed by, and they can give you that date. You can pre-configure that date if you want to, meaning they can't say I need it tomorrow. They might need to give you at least 2 weeks notice. You might ask for a client job number or whatever. These are all customizable. So please know that mine will just, I'll jump through a few hoops. I want you to notice that this project has a special scheduling need. I've got to make a choice here. There's a required dot. So if I went and passed over it, it won't let me save until I finish answering. If I finish this one, it gave me an extra drop down of information. So these project request forms can be very helpful, quick first, pieces of basic details, and they give you what they need to, and then they go on to the next page. You may have 3, 4, 5 pages. Those extra pages are your spec sheets. I'm not going to really worry about my detail here, but I'm going to do something just to show you that they would give you whatever they need to have here, whatever that spec sheet is. Or if they don't need it at all, they could just hit next. If it's not appropriate, you get those directions. And then the last set is basically submitting it. Or do they need to send you attachments? And so they're going to submit it and they're done. They will also get an email in their system saying, hey, congratulations, your project request has been sent. And notice that they'll see it on their client portal. So they can see and remember what they've sent. They can see other statuses. If it's been not sent, they can go back and finish it, canceled. What's funny is I don't see approved on this drop down, but they will see and know about that. And they also have views. So remember when I clicked on projects and I saw an ugly long list of everybody's projects? Well, Joe should only be able to see either none because he has no projects, or his one and only project in this case. Now he just requested a project. He might end up with 2 and more. So he'll be able to see those and kind of see what a client can see. So I'll let you go in and venture, look at that, inactives, actives, just a limited amount of what he should see, including campaigns, same thing. Only if it's one of his projects should he have the rights to be able to see it. And he could see all his request forms, simply approved or whatever status, and kind of use it to either follow up on or copy from, or just kind of keep a record of it and PDF a copy of that. He'll be able to see his active projects and anything that's been completed. Notice he'll see an alert here if there's something he hasn't seen or read yet. So he could easily click in that active project and notice it was a response back to his to the conversation he sent or email he sent to myself, to the project manager, and he can reply and do all the good stuff. And notice he can start that conversation if he wanted to start a new one. And people on the team don't have emails, they drop them off. So little cleanups like that. Okay, so that's how the portal view works as far as visibility. Notice up here, he's got an assigned task. This is an optional piece. In the project that I had shown you earlier, I think I had it up a moment ago, this box 24, I had on the schedule kickoff meeting, I think. In fact, I think it was that one. And that was the meeting, I believe, that I had put him on. I don't know why I'm seeing something strange. Start a meeting. Yeah. So, good. my brain is stopped. Okay, there we go. Here's me, but here's also the client. I put him there because I wanted him to see it in his portal. Do I need to do that? Absolutely not. Okay, but to add a person, a client, a free user to a task, guess what? They have to be on the team so that you can assign them to the project, just like a regular team member. They don't put in time, but it does put it as a placeholder. And then let's go back to Joe King's login or client portal. He sees it's a task to do and he can mark it as done. Also, though, if you'd rather, and this may make more sense, just give him a calendar meeting and it can be put on the calendar and he can see what it is. He can click in for more detail. He can see who's going. He can say he's going to attend, all that right from here. Okay, so update, etc. You can also see when your offices are closed. Just up to you how much, if you want to even give them access to the calendar. Okay, let's move on in, and I hope that's been insightful for you. And this is Mr. Joe King, who's very new into the system, doesn't have a lot to do, but let's just say his meeting is already done. So I'm going to hit done and you see it would go away. So upcoming, let's say it's review a deliverable or other things, maybe go collect some items that you need them to send you. Whatever you need to give them, you can put it in as a task, or heavens to Betsy, let's just go ahead and do it as a conversation. That's also easy. All right, I'm going to log out of Joe King. Oh, before I do, he's got the same little right corner as you. If he clicked on his name, he can update his settings. He can change his avatar, all that fun thing. If you want to tell him how to do it, he can also log out. But before I have him log out, under the bell is also notices where he can see messages. He can see other things. So we'll see that also on another user's board here momentarily. Okay, I'm going to log out of Joe King. And I'm going to go in as one of my more super users just because there's a little more to show you on that guy. And again, keep me signed in or not, and signed in. Mr. Abe Lincoln, he's my favorite little guy I go to a lot. He's got lots of things going on. He's had lots of requests he's pushed in and approved. Many of them have been approved. If he needs to see him, he can go back and use them and kind of maybe copy and resubmit it and do other things with it, or just see what memories, canceled, rejected. People like to see what they have going on. Mr. Abe could also potentially see what others have submitted because he's got higher security rights. He can certainly add his own project request in. So that works just the same as we saw for Joe King. He's got deliverables, he's got views, he's got invoices. So we're going to look at a few of those. And he may even have some important projects to keep an eye on. So let's go take a look. I have one that I'm ready to show you here momentarily that is ends with 019. Because he's got so many, I use my little search up there, and you notice the important project that he wants to see. There's 2 conversations, there's a deliverable to review. All good things could show up just right in his project view. You can also go back and look at what's happened with those completed ones. Before I click here though, notice I've got the same deliverable client review phase up here for his reminder. He does not have to go down all the way into the project to see it. But if he does, you see what he sees here. This is a client view, believe it or not. There's a lot of access for no charges to you all. So you can see a description if you want to use next steps or important client notes. He could even see that schedule of expected coming dates. He can start that conversation. He can see when if he's read any updates or replies, to those emails. Nothing worse than trying to scrounge through all those emails you get. I know I'm in the same boat. My home email can't even keep up with that anymore. So wonderful that he's got a project. He doesn't have to go scrounging around looking for the last updates. He sees it just like you can in Workamajig and reply directly. etc. He can see any of those spec sheets that if there were any on this project, and those are views you give them in that portal system settings that we did initially when I was logged in as me. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Oh, the deliverable view. Well, we could go all the way over to deliverables if he knows how to do that and go look at it here. That's a little harder, as you know, it's just not right in his face. And people are only going to be as good with this as much as they want to be. Some are real geeks and they get it and they get into all the little crevices. But we make it very easy because one, it's either right there, but this is the best one, is give them that view right in their portal. They don't have to go find the email that they got. They can go click here. It opens right up to the item or items that you're reviewing, the instructions you need for them. I didn't put but one picture here, but they might have several pages here to read. And if you've not used our deliverable review tool, you may want to book a call with your account manager to go in there. But basically, he can put in his comments, love the pick and etc. He can mark it up saying, put logo here, and put that add logo here. Now, I usually don't do more than one comment in a box, but there you go. If there's an attachment, if there's a certain person they want to email, they can do all those extra things, but not necessarily. And then when you guys go back, you're going to be able to see if you click on things, what he's saying about that, add the logo here. And he can continue to add more comments as needed. Maybe he hates it, maybe telling you a different item, he can add that attachment in this. And basically the idea here is he's got to eventually make a decision so you know how to move forward. Is this the logo, the image he's looking for? Is this the wording that he needed in the big document you're working up? Whatever it is you're working up, you may have several deliverables. But either way, the idea, end of the day, they got to decide and make the decision for you. He either approves it, or he approves with changes, or he wants you to resubmit it. So let me just make it nice. And he sees a due date. So he's now late, but he's okay. He'll do it now. Okay. So that's the basics of just a quick look at how the deliverable worked. And look, it's gone away because he's completed it. I'm sorry that I looked up in his bell. You might have seen it in his bell. And he can see other things and search for messages if he can't find what he wants on quick hand. I don't know if you all know about this feature, but maybe you have this in your bell as well, and maybe you just want to see what was sent to you today. You don't want to go find your emails. That would be nice, no email sent. But I haven't sent anything to Abe in a while, but he can search for past emails using that feature. Okay, and then again, calendar. Does he have meetings? Oh, there was a little bit I wanted to show you here. How's our time doing? I think we're doing all right. So in the calendar feature, he certainly can add his own meetings. He can, oh, maybe not. But he can see meetings he's been invited to, and he certainly can say he's attending, and update, maybe send you a message. But also he may want to know when you're out of the office so he can have the public company meeting calendar view given to him. But remember, I showed you all the activity I've done with Abe over the years. He may like and need, because he might have to report to others, he might want to see a lot of those projects on a calendar. And if you've never used our published calendar, and I can't tell you this is a really good looking one, but I did a quick one to show you as an example. Here's some due dates that are coming up on different projects, maybe the same project, but different tasks. And he can see those due dates right on the calendar. And depending on your published calendar, it may show him in the future. It might just show him for the month. And that may make him quite happy, or her. So just an idea, those published calendars would be specific to those specific client users. And all that's another extra chaining you can request more information on. But that's a good purpose of why you might want to give them the calendar access. Okay. How are we doing here? If I've not figured out anything, let's talk a little more about the assigned tasks. Again, the client, the account manager may have put a specific task for him to do. This one is that meeting note. Basically, they just mark it done when they're done with it. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there just for that to be visible for you. Oh, if Abe needs to go look at other projects, certainly he's got to clear out his filter, but he also can maybe need to see those or those completed projects. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and check the chat if you've got some questions. I see a Q&A board here. The client vendor is the question under the Q&A. The client vendor is for internal team members and hired vendors, not customers, correct? Will you be showing this for customers? I think I answered that maybe. So, but yes, it is for customers. Those clients are certainly could be customers. So clients is that verb, that word, that, noun, I should say. What does that mean for you all? Marcoms, the customer is basically the people they've got hired to take care of the marketing for. Sears Roebuck, they had a big marketing department that does all their marketing, and those managers have requested work of certain, hey, we're highlighting this sale today, blah blah blah. But you agencies that have outside customers, you have either you have customers, and again, those people probably don't need the paid, the ones that are paying the bill may not use the client portal. They may not like it, they may not want it, but if you have those kind of people or needs, that would be so perfect for it. Those are your customers. They can go in, log in like Mr. Abe Lincoln, certainly a client that I'm billing because he can see those invoices, etc. And keep track of things. He's a paying customer of mine, but he's using my system enough that he just knows when he has basic needs to request of you. And he could send me an email, he could call me, but he could also be given a quick, easy login to the portal and go in and go, yep, I need my web fixes, and I'm going to go to or build or whatever, and that project request will help them communicate to you what they want. The others are, client vendors would be real great with this assigned task. Not a customer, not as much, but a vendor or more so a contractor that is not recording time in the system, but needs to see basic things. I'm just going to click randomly because I don't remember which ones have spec sheets, but do they need to either add a spec sheet or look at those spec sheets that are regarding a project? Then they would have all that access to things. So vendors are very much someone you pay as an employee, but you're just giving them minor access into Workamajig to see basic things. And then going back to the internal marketing teams, they always have people that are requesting work. So I hope that answers the QA I saw there. So Carolyn is asking, do I understand correctly that you need to first set up the group security access items and security settings and go to the person in the group and set their access? So that's usually done one time, Carolyn. We already have defaults there that you can use. Some people use one security group, like I mentioned. Some give a couple different folds. If you're a huge Marcom group, you may have regional client groups. The West Coast, the Southwest, the blah, 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 because they have different focuses. So those security groups would be needed if you need that kind of deviation of your client groups. Okay. And then when did just say that Abe would have a higher security so he could potentially see? Oh, yeah. So let me just show you what I mean by that access that Abe has as a higher access. He's going to request a project. Let me go back to the same one I already used. Well, it's requested by him by default, but maybe he would need to also actually request it for another person. And he could say, it's requesting, I'm requesting this for Charlie. and blah, 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 who to email, etc., then would need to be dropped in. So that's what I mean. There's a little extra security that Abe would have that would give him the ability to see things that his company's requesting. He might be that department head of a lot of users that might be requesting work, and he might just need to keep an eye on those things. So that's all based off of those internal security rights. Lots of good questions coming in. I'm gonna mark those as answered live in the Q&A, but move into the chat now at this point. Oh, the budget or estimates look like to the client. I will try to do that. Is there a size limit for deliverables? Yes, there can be, and there are lots of rules around deliverables that I'm going to show you where resources are when I pop over there. The client vendor for internal team and hire. Oh, so thank you for that, Kate. I think you replied in both places. So I hope I've cleared up the question about how you're using it. Internal teams absolutely use this a bunch. It's those live agencies. Are they needing it? And it's really more specific to the type of client you're working with. And then I can show you those invoices and estimates potentially. Thank you. Okay, we're back at the top of those questions. So let's go over into, before I leave it, the invoice views. It's up to you what back in 17, what that invoice looked like. You've emailed the client most likely. I have no idea if it's so old, it could have nothing on there. Whoops, there it is. So, they can have quick access back to that invoice if need be. So if you need that, they can have that, running record. Make it nice for your clients. Don't make them work hard to be working with you, if that's the way I see it. Estimates, that's going to come from that project. Let me just see if I've got one on his project, which was that 19. I don't know if I even thought about showing that. So let's just go into this one. Has a chance of having one. Nope, not one there. I can look back on my view to see maybe where I could show one from a client perspective, but really it's what you see on your side. If you've created an estimate, you've approved it, or you want them to look at it and you've printed it into a PDF, that if it's on the project, that's what they will see. So due to time, I may not find one real quickly, but we can certainly show you at a quick glance. As you see, I'm not going to know if there is something there. Let me check this one. Estimate test. I have a chance. No, I don't know. If I don't know if I didn't give it access or there is not one on the project. So we'll go look and we'll go copy it out and I'll come in looking at it from my perspective. Now notice I am on Firefox as my user. I have left my Chrome access open. If you don't want to log out and log in for each look, do two different browsers. Don't do two different tabs in the same browser, or you'll have confused screens all over the place. Let me just look at, we mentioned Abe's being able to see an estimate. Oh, that's not even the right one. Sorry. I got to look and watch and actually read what I'm searching for. There's my estimate. Okay, so something's screwing up with my system right now. It could be just that I need to refresh. So let me see, there's a few more chats in here while I'm letting that refresh. When you change security settings through the contact and change in the project details with those edits, will those edits follow through to all the contact projects, or will it change it, the overall client rights for all clients? Yeah, so I'm going to answer this live. I'm not going to try to type it. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I'm going in and I'm working up these, security settings, everything that you guys do comes from what you're given as a security group. And the security settings determines what you can and cannot do in the system. Just like my accounting person or my administrator, they got all kinds of power, right? But the clients and I'm going to just go see who that includes because it's not me, although my name shows there only because I'm showing up on this tab. I go to that client group. Am I giving them access to a lot? Access all projects for client. Well, that would mean all, like Abe, anything for Lincoln Logs client, Abe would be able to see, even if he didn't request it. That's what the difference is of those two rights. So I may not even given him that right. So just it applies to anyone in that group. And these people could be from all different companies. These are generic rights for basic things. Can they view that calendar? Can they add a project request? Can they view a project description or not? Okay, but it's not the end all of their security rights, because I noticed some of these things were not checked that I did give security rights for. I'm going to stay here, go to my recents, go to Joe King, and go back to his preview client portal under the more. It's these settings. If you don't have them, that's because you personally don't have the security rights that you would need, and your project manager or your admin would have to go do this. But then what group is that? Did you give Joe King? I put him in this group. I can verify, is he in this group? Any changes I make are applying to all of these users, but it is related to their projects, their invoices if they're seeing it, their estimates, their conversations. So it's still personalized, but the basic usage, can they view it? Can they add it? Can they see it? That kind of thing. I didn't give this group deliverables. I don't know why, just because I wanted to not give some things away. Can they see a project team or not? If I give them the show project team, that will change Joe King's access. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. It does take a lot. I always say this with Workamajig, hands-on practice. Keep a test company in your system. Keep a test contact or contacts, because maybe several of you need to test things out. But using those contacts, if you're using yourself as that contact as an example, one, make sure it's got the free user login checked, and to have a separate different email than the one you do in work. And by the way, don't give your contact name in your test account the same name you're using in Workamajig. Oh my gosh, that certainly confuses us when we have to help support something. So if you're the contact, if I wanted to put a Leslie French contact in here, I'd probably say Leslie test or something similar, so I could know that I'm using a contact login and view. Very, very helpful. Okay, so I hope I've answered better those questions on the security rights, but you set them once and maybe you have to go in there and adjust because you're either needing to give them more access or less. But that's why you want to go in, one, and be able to preview it. But then the preview, as you saw, doesn't completely work because, like in report views, all of a sudden it was looking at my security rights as a project manager, not Joe King's. Okay. Oh, I know there was a bit at the end I want to go over, and we've got about 5 minutes left. Are there new questions, or I just need to click done on that? I think we're good on the questions. So let me go back to the PowerPoint I had open. And let's see if there's any, just put it in the chat if you would, so I know if there's new questions popping in, that'll be quick and easy. But, you know, questions that we've run out of time for, certainly send additional ones to us at support@workamajig.com. We saw the client portal today. We talked briefly about the project request forms and that you can create them in the system. Maybe you have some current PDFs or things you use currently on your website that you would rather put in a client portal. These need a little bit of time to create, and you will need to go through a training. We do have, I think, a webinar recorded about it, but do request training. Your account managers are wonderful out there. I'm wonderful. I'll say that out loud. We love to show you and how these things work, and we want you to use more of the system. The spec sheets, if you've never used them, how do you create them? It combines with the project request call. So you learn how to create both and use both. You don't have to use them with clients or those customers. It is certainly still a good tool for those account managers. If I didn't stress it enough, an account manager, they're wooing that client, right? They win the business, and now they go to you and go, oh, we need such and such of a project. Can you do that? And then you've got to go back and forth with a bunch of questions and details. They could instead log in for free. They don't need an extra usage. Maybe they're using our CRM tool already, but if they're not, they can have a free login as well for a project request type of form. Deliverables, certainly we talked about, and it looks like some of you may have not used deliverables. So we'll look back at the support guide, but the deliverables got all kinds of new features. We're doing a brand new update this January that if you've never used deliverables, it'll just flow real easy into that. And if you've been using deliverables, you're probably already using the new feature. It was just a beta thing that we're enabling. So that's a coming attraction here in the next week. We also did not talk about change requests, but you can't, it's related to those project requests. You know, the good thing about a project request is, especially even if it's internal users only, you guys internally, you go, you didn't ask me for this. You didn't tell me this deadline. Yes, we did. It's in the request approval process. Hey, I need changes. Well, you can do a change request now, just in the same similar. So all those things can be found in our support guide just with a quick search, but certainly send questions and certainly ask us if you would like to set up some training to get a deeper dive on any of this. Any other questions? I don't see anything new in the chat box. If I could answer, we've got about 4 minutes left. I'll give you some time to do that. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Please, when the recording gets posted, I think it emails you because you've registered for the webinar. If you don't see it, certainly ask us for a link to this recording, share it with others, get them excited. We can even tell you how easy it might be to train your client, basically, on how to log in. It's basically how to log in. Okay, everyone, I'm going to say goodnight. I don't see any other new questions or QAs. So thank you for your time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.